mess.
And then on a Tuesday afternoon one day, it all ended when somebody said, "Well, that's it. You guys are done," and they'll never be part of a team like that again. And that experience is truncated in a kind of unprecedented way. So your first thoughts go to them, and man, what can we do for them, and how can we try to help them through this?
So, where does Notre Dame sit with graduate transfers or kids who want to take their fifth year? What is Notre Dame's policy, and is it different from the ACC's?
No, there is no ACC policy on that. I mean, there's an NCAA policy, but the bottom line is, at Notre Dame, if you want to play in your fifth year, assuming you have that eligibility, you have to be part of a legitimate course of study. So, in other words, you can't come to Notre Dame, get hurt as a freshman, and say, "Well, I'm just going to take 5 years to graduate, and I'll play my fifth year," and it'll just take 12 hours every semester instead of 15. At Notre Dame, you have to graduate in 4 years, and then you can decide what you're going to do, and then that means that you have to be part of a graduate program, or in some cases, you can extend an undergraduate program through a second major or something like that, but it has to be a legitimate academic pursuit. And that limits us, I mean, we're able to get, like, we have Patrick Aslanian here as a graduate transfer this year from Georgetown, but he got a degree from Georgetown University and got himself into a one-year MBA program at Notre Dame. So it certainly can happen and has happened, but it's a little more difficult than just saying I'll stretch this out over 5 years or I'll take a few grad courses that don't mean anything.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. How is this going to change your roster as you look forward to next season? 2021 could be a very cloudy and rough year. How's this going to change your roster? Do you anticipate it expanding?
It's too early right now to know that, Booker. We don't know what the NCAA. They've hinted at what they'd like to do, but that's a long way from saying this is what we're going to do. In other words, they may say, the seniors have an extra year. They may say everybody on the roster has an extra year, in which case this is a 5-year effect. And if they do that, do they expand the amount of scholarship money that you have? Because if they don't, in most cases, you're almost at capacity every year on what you're spending on scholarship, right? And so you've committed next year's money, and all of a sudden you want to bring back 5 or 6 guys from this year's senior class who, because they were 5 or 6 of the very best players that you had, are probably also looking at scholarship money. I mean, can they afford to do that? Can you afford to do that within your budget? Is the NCAA going to allow you to expand your budget? And if they do, is the university going to want to do that? Because listen, the universities in the next couple of years are going to feel the effects of this. Look, even if every dollar that was supposed to come in next year comes in the way it's supposed to, the endowment just took a huge hit. Because to the stock market and everything else. So there are going to be huge repercussions on all of this, and so it's way too early to talk about roster management on this stuff. And right now, the only thing we're talking to our guys about is, let's slow down, take our time, let's be intentional and very considerate in all the decisions that we're making, because things are changing so fast. You don't need to be first. You just need to be right some of these decisions, and especially when we're talking about seniors and what they're going to do for the rest of their lives.
That's some great advice from Coach Corrigan, the head coach at Notre Dame, joining us here on the Booker Corrigan Show. Coach, will this change the way you do fall ball at all next year in your approach, and maybe an extra scrimmage? Like, is there any changes you anticipate for fall ball?
Again, so early
okay.
To try to make that decision, but obviously, if you know, and we're not playing any more lacrosse this year. There
right.
will be no more lacrosse this year, and so you know that's a certainty at this point. So obviously, your freshmen miss out on 2 really significant months of growth, but everybody in your program does, you know, and so I think in a general way, you're going to be thinking about next fall. Yeah, we're going to play a little more lacrosse next fall probably than we have in the last few falls, you know, and we're gonna see if we can't maybe compete a little bit more, just to get some of those experiences that you were hoping guys would have gotten through the course of the rest of this year.
Coach Kevin Corrigan joining us here, and Coach Corrigan has an unbelievable couple decades of experience out at Notre Dame, helping young men become the best possible version of themselves. Getting into you a little bit, Coach, what is the best conversation, and with whom did it take place when you heard that the NCAA had canceled the tournament? Who's the most memorable conversation you've had?
You know, that's a tough one. There were so many conversations that you had with different people about this, but one of my best conversations is a guy in town named Jay Caponegro. Jay is works through the university, but he's kind of in charge of community engagement for the university, and so we've worked a lot through Jay with the school systems here in town and things of that nature, and so just really trying to look at this whole thing not through the very narrow lens of a lacrosse coach and at Notre Dame, but maybe more through the lens of how is this affecting our whole community here, and what are the things. You know, I mean, listen, I tell our guys all the time, we're the fortunate few. You know, we've got it pretty good in life, most all of us, and you know, so at a time like this, you worry more about the people who are, you know, less advantaged, and what are, you know, in a school system where 50% of the kids might be getting you know, reduced or free lunches. What does it mean when the school closes for a month?
Yeah.
And how can we try to find some role to play in that, some positive role, maybe to help our community at a time when some people are really going to be hurt.
And some people of need. You know, I have to reflect for a minute on the loss of Gene Corrigan, Papa Gene. He was my godfather, and, you know, obviously someone who gave you great advice. Who's filled that void for you, and what would you talk to your team about when you lost him?
Gosh, you know, two questions there. The first one, no one can fill that void, but I'll tell you that the whole experience of that, Booker, and the way that our family shared that. As you know, I'm one of 7 kids in our family, and with my mother, who's still sharp as a tack at 90.
Love
you know, we've had a pretty remarkable last month and a half with everything, with Dad's passing, and just, you know, really honestly celebrating a wonderful life, a wonderful legacy, you know, all the positive impact that we all feel from him and what he did for us over all the years. Just feeling nothing more than very fortunate that we had so many great years with him, and we were lucky enough that he got to know every one of his grandchildren, that he got to you know, do the things that he did professionally and personally, and that what we found out when he passed is that there were a lot of people all over the country that felt so much like we did, that they, you know, that we all kind of loved that same guy and all knew that same guy, and that was pretty great. And I tried to share that with our team, you know, to talk about the second half of your question. You know, I mean, what I shared with them was, man, you know, I mean, this is what you want people to think and feel at the end of your life if you're doing things right. And I wish I was better. I'm going to keep trying to live up to that. But I think there's a lot to be said for kind of, look at the end first and say, what do you want the end to look like? And if you can do that and try to have that guide some of your decisions every day, you're probably going to be in a better place.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know my daughter Mary. The other night she was going on a plane to go on spring break, and she said, let's sit down and write each other's eulogies, and then we have something to go with to go backwards. And I think that sometimes you do want to look at what's going to be there when you're gone. The other thing I have to bring up with you is, and you referenced your mom, Bertie, Lena, absolutely fabulous person. That kind of a relationship. How often do you talk to your team about the quality and the depth of their relationships with others?
Boy, I mean, I hope enough.
Yeah.
But we talk about it a lot. We talk about their relationships with each other. We talk about their relationships with people, on campus, people in their lives. But yeah, you can't talk about that stuff too much because there's just nothing more important, I mean, great point.
And what's the first book you're going to read when you get around to the point where mid-April, brother, I love you. And I know that right now you are doing some things and dealing with and fostering those great relationships that you do. But I think, mid-April, you might have a free afternoon. What's the first book you look forward to picking up?
You know what? It's funny, Booker. I'm a serial book buyer, and I've got books that I've been buying and not reading, or buying and reading half of it, and then something happens, and I'm sitting here in my office and I'm looking at Grit and Radical Candor and Good to Great, and some of the books that I've read in the past and loved, and I want to reread some of those because I think as we just talked about a concept from a book that I read a long time ago, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. He had one of his habits is begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Think about where you're trying to get to and what that looks like, and that'll help guide you in the decisions you make along the way. So, there's another book called Atomic Habits that I just bought that I want to read. And again, it's about bridging that thing from where you want to be to how do you form the habits, daily habits to help you get there effectively and efficiently. So, yeah, I mean, gosh, I don't know, book. It's a hard one to answer because I got a shelf full of books that I want to get to.
I was trying to walk you into the easy answer where you could just say, "Tell me more" by Kelly Corrigan, right?
My God, dog it! What a miss! Did I forget to mention that one?
I think you did. I thought you actually mentioned it twice, as I remember. Yeah. Brother, I love you. The celebration of life for Papa Gene was phenomenal. Best of luck in the coming weeks, and wash your hands, my man.
You got it, brother. Thanks, Buck. Take care.
Appreciate your time. You got it. You gotta absolutely love Kevin Corrigan. As promised, we got Brendan Curry. What a great, great young man. Let's get him on the line immediately because I told him I was going to call him at 12:30 and it's 12:37. Brendan Curry, you are live on the Booker Corrigan Show. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay right now because there's still stuff going on. Where do you think you'll be emotionally on April 17th or on April 29th or May the 7th? And Syracuse is still not playing any lacrosse games. How are you going to fill the void?
I mean, it's definitely going to be tough. I don't know a spring that I haven't really played lacrosse since I was probably like 4 years old. So it'll definitely be weird, especially even not watching it. There's really going to be nothing going on. So maybe try and find a hobby, keep myself occupied. But as Coach Simmons always says, life goes on and the sun will rise tomorrow. That was a pretty cool thing that he told our team. So, not trying to think about it too much. Get a little emotional when you think of the seniors and all the guys who won't be coming back next year. So it was a tough goodbye for them. But, we're gonna move on, come back next year and just be even more excited to start the season.
What is it like to play at Syracuse for John Desco?
Oh, it's awesome. I think it's just a really like unique program. They let their players. There's not a lot of rules, which I know people think may be good or bad, but they let us like grow up, live and learn in our mistakes. They care about us as people just as much as players. So it's a cool environment, and we had a really good culture this year, which is one of the reasons why we were just so bummed about the ending.
Talking about bummed out about the ending, can you please put into words for me how this might have felt for you if this happened during your senior year at Calvert Hall?
I would have just been. I mean, especially with that team. I mean, and playing with those guys for my whole life, pretty much, most of them. So that would have just been a different level, especially my senior year. You never want to end your senior year by not even being able to play your whole season, let alone maybe just lose. So it would have just been heartbreaking. And all these guys at MIA they're all so close once they get to senior year. So that would have been heartbreaking.
What advice have you gotten from your amazing parents, Aaron and Todd Curry?
Well, my dad called me. He was pretty nervous about it. I mean, I think everyone kind of expected it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not as soon. But I just remember I was just in my car by myself, called my dad and kind of just broke down. And he didn't really have that much to say, honestly, which he was like, if I had to put myself in your shoes, I would really be at a loss for words. And then, so, I just talked to him and it's kind of what I was feeling. And then he shot me a text after we talked on the phone just about, like, how life goes on. Lacrosse is a game. But, like, in this case, it was different because he said, now you have 3, 4, 5 days where you have to make the most of it. Like, it's gone. Lacrosse, the season's not going to come back. So you can't keep, like, thinking on that. You just have to spend as much time as you can with the seniors and with the team because, that team isn't going to have another day to do anything. And then, it makes you realize that even if you don't want to go to practice one day, like, it's really not that bad. And you'll miss it the next day. And when it gets taken away like that, even the lifts, everything, just, like, hanging out in the locker room. So he just told me to cherish that, and I think we did that the last couple of days. I'm actually down in Hilton Head, about to walk to the beach right now with my whole class. We got together and just drove down, which was pretty cool. So, it opens up some stuff that you get to do with your friends that, you usually wouldn't want to, but obviously not. We would much rather be up in Q's practicing right now.
You know me, I got a guy. If you want to go tee it up at Long Cove, let me know. It's one of the top-ranked courses on the East Coast. I think they'd be more than happy to host you on my behalf. So
awesome.
Please. Hey, so you said you want to pick up a hobby or something. Can I make a couple suggestions?
Yes, I would love that.
Yes. One, read the book Tell Me More by Kelly Corrigan. Another shameless plug. She's my sister. And I will tell you, Brendan Curry joining us here on the Booker Corrigan Show, Syracuse midfielder. Brendan, it was number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. So I'm not steering you up the wrong road there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I trust you.
But also, she's my little sister, so we get to bust her stones a little bit just because she wasn't much when I first met her. So I did a lot with her. Your free time coming up. Learn how to play the saxophone.
Saxophone, okay.
Yeah. If I could go back in time and take a season off like you guys have now been forced to do, I'm jealous you're in Hilton Head. I'm not, and I didn't even get the invite. But we'll get past that, Brendan. We will get past that. Yeah. But I would learn how to. Yeah, I would in the coming weeks. I'd learn how to play the saxophone. I think that it's the coolest thing you could possibly do. So, and then the other is, what do you say to the seniors when the last time you see them? You're going to see them for the final time at some point. What's going to go through your mind, and what are you going to say to them?
It's as I know, probably a couple people saw the video from last year of me breaking down. I'm not too good at goodbyes. Pretty emotional when it comes to those seniors. Every year, it just means more and more to me. Just kind of what they've done. First, I'll just give them a giant hug and just say thank you.
Yep.
And this is different than last year because these guys are only 1 year older than us, so it's like more of like that true friendship. I played with them for 3 years. Like me and Jamie have been, playing together every single day. From really like right when we stepped on campus, he's just been huge. He's one of my best friends. And hopefully they get the chance to come back. But I would just really just say thank you. This senior class especially just completely changed the culture at Cuse. So we can't thank them enough for that, and I think all of our coaches know that too. But just, how they are as people, they're hilarious. We always just hang out in the locker room.
That's perfect.
Watching stupid stuff on YouTube or whatever, but
Hey,
it was just fun.
Whoa, we're on YouTube right now. Don't bash YouTube until you get off the phone. Yeah, go watch the best of Booker Corrigan from 2012 or 13, right?
I think we have watched that, honestly.
Why wouldn't you? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, come on. No, the last thing, and you alluded to this where you said Syracuse doesn't put a lot of rules down. I was lucky enough to read, as a young coach, I read Mike Krzyzewski's book titled Leading with the Heart. And one of the things that he said was Duke basketball has one rule for the kids in their program. Always do what's in the best interest of Duke basketball. That covers everything. And yeah. I'm guessing that is that about what they guide you to do?
Yeah. And, Coach Simmons, the Simmons family is they're just awesome people, and they have, a lot of philosophies about that kind of stuff, and just kind of like, like living your life like for a bigger purpose, which is something that, our team, took upon themselves this year. Then Coach Simmons is always just, you wear the S on your back. People know who you are, that kind of thing. So it's important, and it goes a long way, especially when you can live like that in public places and stuff.
Yep. And people see you all the time. Brendan, I totally appreciate the time. Please tell your parents I said hello. Have a nice time. Have a nice time down in Hilton Head, but let's be honest, right? Always do what's in the best interest of the Curry name and Syracuse lacrosse.
Perfect.
You got it. Thank you, my friend. We'll have you on again this spring, and we'll catch up with how you're doing on the saxophone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Love you. Take care.
Yeah.
You got it. Brendan Curry, what a great, great kid. Phenomenal young man. That's going to do it for today. Great to catch up with those people. Kevin Corrigan with some great advice, and his father, Gene Corrigan, who passed away recently in January. So please tell the people you love that you love them. And I can genuinely say Kevin Corrigan has been there for me when I need advice, and that's phenomenal. The fact that we've known each other our whole lives. A unique little fact with Kevin and I is his dad was my godfather, and my dad was his godfather. So I don't know what that makes us, but we've always been close. We did a lot of camps together back in the 90s when camp came before club. Will it ever return that way? I certainly hope so. Club lacrosse is good, and I think kids should still play it, but there's nothing wrong with going to a camp once a summer to learn how to really do the intricate parts of the game and have a coach break down things for you in an afternoon, and then work on it in the evening, and then work on it the next morning, and then work on it that afternoon. So you're getting that the morning to afternoon to evening instruction, as opposed to a club team that might practice once a week, then you go play 4 games. So if you have a bad habit, you're going to be able to improve your play at a camp. So maybe we'll start the Booker Corrigan lacrosse camp sometime real soon. Also want to let you know, Brendan Curry, speed, great attitude, great person, and he can score goals, make plays, and keep his teammates in the front of his mind. He's one of the most unselfish players I've seen. So it's great to have Brendan Curry on here. Also want to let you know, Bermuda 2021. Bermuda 2021. If you're out of college, maybe we'll invite some college teams. But if you're out of college and you want to play some lacrosse in heaven, in paradise, this is where lacrosse meets paradise. Bermuda 2021. You heard it here first, folks. Or you may have heard me say it before. Take care of yourselves. Wash your hands. I'm Booker Corrigan, reminding you, you only get one shot at today. Cool.